So our series, our session are designed to give the CISO and others like security professionals insight into the related trends, the challenges, and strategies into the cybersecurity, so you can understand the threat landscape and so like have the ability to protect the organization better. So my name is Antien Vu. I'm a principal analyst at Frost Sullivan cybersecurity team. Right, I'm leading our global cloud and application security research, and I will be the moderator today. I want to set the stage for today's conversation. So, as you know, that like over the past decade, right, or more than 10 years, so we have seen the application security has evolved, right, dramatically, right, from static point-in-time scanning to more innovative runtime-centric moment, right? However, so like we still see that the organization continue or still struggle, right, to deal with the real-time threat, right, for the applications. So we also see that like the cloud native adoption, the faster development life cycles, and the AI-driven governance and so on, making the threat landscape larger and sort of more complex, right? We continue to see that like traditional application testing tools, for example, DAST, SAST, and SCA and so on, are still very, very essential in the application security.
It's interesting to me because I think that the challenge that we're going to talk today is one it's spanned the entire sort of evolution of application, and it's just been accepted, right? Like I think this is the reality of sort of the situation, the technology that was historically existed, but applications when they're running have just been a blind spot. Like organizations spend a lot of time building, even testing applications, going through deployment processes. And then once the application's live, you kind of have to just sit on your hands and wait and see, right? Like look to see if an attacker was successful and were able to actually abuse the application and try to chase them after the fact.
I agree with Mick. I think that the blind spot is one of the key challenges. I think that when we're talking with our customers and prospects, I think that there is one big challenge that really kind of I think amplified over the last few years, which is the speed of attacks and the speed of weaponization. Because if I really need to kind of pursue this one big challenge, I think it's the shrinking of the breach window. We used to live in a world where we could, as Mick said, we could do the work, do the detection, and hopefully wait for the patch to happen, wait for the fix to happen. But now we don't have time anymore.
I couldn't agree more with what Daniel said about the speed and the pace. And eventually we live in a world that every organization wants to be more efficient and execute faster. I think that this speed problem comes from a major challenge, which is the gap between theory and reality. We scan code, we find tens of thousands of potential issues, but when something dangerous happens in production, usually it's often invisible until it's too late. And especially in a cloud-native, AI-driven environment, attack surfaces shift hourly, the application changes constantly, and security teams are unable to chase that manually.
I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, so it was hammered into me early on in my career, the whole KISS principle, which is the keep it simple, stupid, for lack of a better. So I'm always a big fan of just simplifying as much as possible. And we're very guilty in security of using all kinds of acronyms, right? And I think there is some confusion. Matter of fact, I've had these conversations just the last 2 days of differences between CNAPP and EDR, and the easiest way is to, I think, just to narrow it down, because the ability to solve some of those same problems, there is overlap, right? It definitely starts to dabble in some of those other areas.
So first, let's say I don't think we have still in the world a clear definition to what this AI native application means. But let's assume for this purpose of this discussion that when we're talking, I think, about next-gen cloud-native applications and AI application, we're talking about applications that have components that were generated by AI, but mainly AI components that are part of the logic of the application itself, right? And I think that when you essentially added AI components to your application logic, essentially, we created an unpredictable by design applications, because we are kind of crossing from the world of deterministic, there is a code, it needs to do something, going back to other solution you mentioned. I can look at the request and understand if it makes sense or not. We moved so-called the chasm to essentially creating anomalies by design. And if I'm looking at it from a request standpoint, from a Cisco standpoint, like other tools, I might see them as anomalies. But when you're actually looking into the application, understanding the actual workflows, they're not really an anomalies. It's just the new nature of what we called AI native application, next generation of cloud native applications.
I think that we live in such an exciting time in application security that finally, I think that we're able to solve pains that were here for the last few decades in application development, in securing the applications themselves, and the usage of context, the ability to instrument the application, to generate context, to correlate it with every single point of data that we have from across the SDLC, gives us the opportunity to enrich teams, to enrich tools, to improve the decision making, to reduce the time to remediation, reduce triaging time,